And also having Ted at the Walker in the back, whereas in Providence at Veterans Memorial Auditorium, he will be, yes.
Right, which is where he was at Montclair as well.
Right,
yeah,
and
right
at New York Live Arts,
yes.
when we saw
right. What is it better for you? What you?
Well, I don't know. After all this, I feel like I want to stay very open. But I enjoyed having the sound kind of, not that it all came from behind, but just kind of infused.
It's funny because you're a sophisticated goer, and I didn't think about that. But when I come into the room, into a theater, there are certain locations. I expect, if it's going to be a proscenium work, that the important information is going to be there. And then I sort of begin to wonder where the sound is coming from, and then when you can actually see him. Or did you know he was back here when you walked in the theater? You were in rehearsal yesterday, right?
And he said, by the way.
yeah, right.
I'm going to be behind you tonight.
Because, actually, there was a lot of talk with he and Sam Crawford, our sound engineer, about what is the play of sound, forward and back and side and so on. Because the speakers are really in the front. Those gestures that are behind you, that you say are coming from behind, were really crafted to actually.
And your voice at one time.
I know, they do these things. And I envy you people in the audience because I'm thinking, they're manipulating my voice right now because it sounds differently on stage. I wonder how this sounds out there, as I'm thinking that. Don't worry about that. You got to get back and make sure you're careful about what you're reading. There's a lot of, I said to Ted, who are the ears in the room? I mean, because Ted says that he himself, when he was down front, Sam is the only one that can tell what it sounds like, what they're doing, I certainly can't. Now, Janet hears and sees everything. Janet Wong, my associate director, she sees and hears everything. But where is
I take that to be almost a meta.
Oh, it is, believe me. Where is the conductor? Where is the conductor in this piece? Is it Bill? It's not Bill. No, Bill is on. He's on stage doing his little task.
Visually, you are. You're on stage, and I.
What do you make of that choice? That was to be center stage like that.
I think it's powerful.
Yeah.
And I also wondered, like sitting meditation, where you go, okay, it's been how long, and is this falling asleep? Is that falling asleep? Because you were very still. So when you looked up, there was a.
And you know what happened last night? On my table is a little tiny monitor, which is a clock. So I don't have to do that. But last night it wasn't working. And I didn't know that and it's too late then because I couldn't, the lights, welcome to story time. I sit down the day, lights come up, bing, the clock is not on. Panic. Okay, this one. But that means that the reading had to be this way more last night, to look at it. And I think if this was your first time seeing it, would you even know, why is he looking up and down so much? Because normally I can be very much more discreet because it's right there.
But you also share something with us when you're present like that.
That's another thing I thought about. How expressive was John Cage? His voice is, he's not at all monotone. It's a very expressive voice. But I find myself sometimes maybe enjoying where a story is going, or sometimes wanting to make a social face and look up. And I think, don't get involved with that.
And ever moved by it, or ever? You're telling some deeply personal stories. So
Now, is it important? And I think that was what he was saying. Don't get caught up in the emotions of what you're saying, he would say.
And do you say that to yourself on
Sometimes
stage?
I
Don't
do.
get caught up?
Sometimes I do. Sometimes I do. If you slow down here too much, Bill, and feel this, you're going to forget your problem of staying on time, Sometimes you do, though. I just heard myself reading it last night, and there was another kind of way of doing it. And I know at Montclair, I had become much quieter, much more like almost whispering. Was it the room? I'm going to try that tonight to take some of the assertiveness out of it, and try to and really trust the words. See, you don't really need me to emote in a story about my mother. Just let you hear. Because, you know, some of the stories have so many words that you don't have time to shape them.
That really makes you conscious of time.
Yes. Yeah.
Can you get them in?
Can you get them in? Yeah. And he does.
And that felt very Cajun.
Yes.
You know, those moments.
Yeah, yeah. Now do that with the story about your mother's funeral. You know, you know, just read it, read. That's what he's saying. I challenge you to do. You know.
Right. So you have, you know, unleashed, set free this work that will embrace in Providence. What other projects? Where does either this lead, or just what projects are you excited about in your work?
Well, first of all, it is an important thing to say that the work I'm doing for the commercial theater is my work. Mm-hmm. It's true, I'm hired to do it by producers and so on, as Fela was and what have you. But it's my work. So I am now, I don't know what the next company work is. I know there's a classical music program going back and pulling things back from the 90s and early 2000s that were done to chamber music. We did a collaboration with the Chamber Music Society of Lincoln Center, the Orion String Quartet. How does this work inform even those works? Janet and I were thinking about, why don't we deconstruct something like the Bach chaconne that I danced and move those bars around and do it by chance procedure. She thinks that's not. Yeah, so that's one.
It does play forward.
Yeah,
it could play forward.
It could play forward. What is the next thing for the company? We're so involved in this right now, and so involved. You know, it's a touring company, and new people are coming in. Paul Matheson is leaving. We're bringing in a new dancer, and he's got to learn all this repertoire over 3 years. Then there is Superfly the musical, which is when I leave this tour on March 4th, I believe on March 5th, we have our first day of a 6-week workshop. And we are aiming toward a Broadway date sometime in the next year and a half or 2 years. Fela is is in Detroit tonight. It was just in Los Angeles, it's in Detroit, it's going to in Philadelphia, it's traveling around. We're looking at a production that's going to Australia and so on and so forth, and to another perhaps a Portuguese language version of it for Brazil. You know, those things are those are some of the other things. I want to actually move again. Want to, and listening to Odetta. I don't know why that came out of the blue, but in the song, last night you hear me singing Take It This Hammer. That's a song that she sings on her Cape of Horn album, and she sings that's a kind of a railroad work song. There are field shouts, there are those songs, and even some folk music, things that really move me profoundly, that remind me of my mother, remind me of a lot of things. How can I make those feelings not just be nostalgia, not just my own personal wallowing in a certain feeling state, but what would I do if I were fashioning it for your audience in Providence or for the Walker? That is something I'm thinking of, but that's just a vague outline of an idea. I'm delivering 3 lectures at Princeton, the Toni Morrison lectures, and they can be about anything I want to, and it will result in a publication. They're going to be about story time. The first one is going to be called Pastime, trying to position myself in relationship to the New York School of Composers, John Cage being the central icon, and how it shaped my whole notion of what relevant contemporary art was, and my battles with it. Was I in the club? Was I out of the club? Then the middle one will just be a version of story time without the company. It'll be 60 minutes, 60 stories. Ted Coffey probably will be part of it. And Bjorn Amelan, my creative director, and I are talking about a way that we might have a visual installation element. We're not clear what that is. And the third lecture at Princeton, as part of the Morrison lectures, will be called With Time. You know, with time, everything changes. well, can I dare look into the future? And the question may on the surface look like, what is the legacy of John Cage's ideas of indeterminacy in the world around me in New York Live Arts, which I am the executive artistic director. Carla Peterson is the artistic director. And we produce the work of artists from every stage of their career. And I see some very young people coming along making things. And my experience of trying to imagine John Cage and Merce looking back at me and Arnie, now I am in the position of looking back at people who are coming along. And it gives me, sometimes I don't feel generous. Sometimes I feel threatened. Sometimes I wonder, did we lead them wrong? Sometimes I'm really, really moved. That last speech wants to talk about the passage of time when it is your time. You know, what am I saying? Time moves on. You know, I'm now in a position of actually curating other people's work and so on. What are my values? Are they still the same values that Arnie and I were struggling with as we thought were coming from Merce and John and Jasper Johns and Robert Rauschenberg and Trisha Brown and all those people? What are the values with time? So that's a big thing. That will be in April, and there will be a publication within the next year.
Fabulous. It's such a profound sense of the search, you know, and I was hearing from Bob about your work in ideas, and you know, I hear it in just what you're all the different ways that
and now it's all about the execution, isn't it?
Well, I wondered if some of it, just to end on this thought, but where your thoughts are about legacy. You know, certainly watching Merce and the Merce Cunningham Foundation, I think that's been
done elegantly, wasn't it?
Present.
Yes, they did it very elegantly.
And there are a number of artists who are starting to think much earlier. You know?
I know. Is that because we're super careerist and self-conscious about that, or is it because of the pressures of our era that we think earlier about legacy? There is this sense that the world is moving so fast and we're all so insignificant that if we don't make some sort of a concerted effort to establish a beachhead of meaning around our output, then we will be washed away. Well, we'll be washed away anyways, but you can push back. When I look at every person at stage last night, who here will be the ones that teach something essential to what Bill T. Jones was about? Who here is hearing it? Who here will have space in their life to actually say, you know, this is what I was doing when I was your age, and I was with this guy, his name was Bill T. Jones, and he believed this. And here's an example of a work that he made. You might be interested in looking at it. Who will be the keepers of the legacy? Not to mention institutional keeping, you know, where the videotapes, that sort of thing. I'd love to have a relationship with a Walker. They become a repository.
Well, they clearly have sort of set that now as,
they've certainly deserved it, don't they?
Taking it, what could be ephemera, and saying no. You know,
yes.
Collecting institutions, and we will do it with.
And it is now is the time to be concerned about legacy, but not in a panicked way.
I would hope not. You only turned 62 days ago.
Like we say, everything is faster now. You know, everything is faster, and one can't be sure that, oh, I'll put it off until later. You know, don't put it off until later. Don't assume, or it's going to be somebody else's responsibility.
So we end on a sense of time.
Always, yes.
And 70 stories in 70 minutes. Compressing an incredible amount of time. You know, it didn't feel like a compression, but in fact, by maintaining the discipline of 1 minute, it does that.
Yeah, and for us on stage,
pack a lot in.
For us on stage, it goes by very fast, very fast. I'm so glad that I'm looking forward to being in your town, and I look forward to being in Providence.
We look forward to having you. We'll talk again. Thank you.